live in an age that's just full of life hacks and productivity gurus, right? But where can we find wisdom that actually lasts? Well, today we're going to dig into a 3,000-year-old text, Proverbs, chapters 25 to 29, and see if this ancient advice can actually help with our very modern problems. Let's see what we can find. Do not boast about tomorrow. I mean, think about it. We are so obsessed with 5-year plans and trying to future-proof our lives. And this one simple line is a pretty radical call for humility. It's challenging us to stop trying to predict everything and just start living. And this idea, this focus on our character today, that's really the thread that ties all of these proverbs together. So where did this collection even come from? See, this isn't just some random list of ancient quotes. The fact that these chapters even exist is because of a very deliberate, kind of high-stakes project to rediscover and preserve wisdom for an entire nation. Just take a look at this timeline. King Solomon writes these proverbs and then nothing, silence. For 250 years. It literally took another king, Hezekiah, who was facing his own national crises, to send his team digging through the archives to bring this wisdom back. And you gotta understand, this wasn't just some dusty academic exercise. It was a rescue mission for the nation's moral compass. It just goes to show that wisdom has to be intentionally saved, or it just gets lost to time. Okay, so if this was all about guiding a nation, what did that guidance actually look like? Well, that brings us right into our first big theme, how this ancient wisdom applies directly to our outer world. Society, leadership, and that really fragile balance between stability and complete chaos. To really get these proverbs, you have to meet their main villain, the fool. Now, forget any modern idea of that word. The original Hebrew word kaisim has absolutely nothing to do with IQ. A person could be a genius and still be a kaisim. It describes a moral condition, an active, stubborn rejection of wisdom. So it's not about what you don't know, it's about what you refuse to learn. This proverb is just brilliant. Think about a sling, right? It's got one job, to launch a stone. If you tie the stone to it, you haven't just weakened it, you've made it completely useless. It can't do the one thing it was made for. And the proverb argues that giving honor to a kesim, that person who rejects wisdom, is exactly the same thing. You're putting them in a position where their biggest flaw makes the entire system break down. And here, the proverbs paint this really vivid picture of what's going on inside someone's head. On one side, you've got the wicked, who are basically living in this constant state of paranoia that they've created for themselves. But on the other side, you have the righteous, who walk with the confidence of a lion. The difference isn't what's happening around them, it's what's happening inside them. One is at war with themselves, and the other is at peace. And look, this isn't just some abstract philosophical idea. The Proverbs are pointing to actual hard history. When a nation is missing that foundation of righteousness, the result is just chaos. I mean, take the northern kingdom of Israel. In just 200 years, they literally burned through 9 different dynasties, and most of them ended in assassinations and bloody rebellions. It's a pretty grim case study of what happens when fools, the kisim, are given power. But here's the thing, this wisdom isn't just for kings and nations. It scales all the way down to our personal lives. So now let's zoom in from the throne room to the living room and see what these proverbs have to say about dealing with our friends, our neighbors, and yeah, even our enemies. I love this. This is basically ancient wisdom for don't be that person. I mean, 3,000 years before setting boundaries was even a phrase, this proverb was giving the same advice. It recognizes a simple truth. Even a good thing, like friendship, can become a total burden if there isn't mutual respect for space and time. Okay, now we're getting to one of the most radical and honestly most misunderstood pieces of advice in this whole collection. If your enemy is hungry, feed them. If they're thirsty, give them water. It sounds like this amazing call for grace until you get to that last part, this heaps burning coals on their head. I know what you're thinking. It sounds like a very polite form of torture, right? But the real meaning is so much deeper. So yeah, those burning coals, they aren't something you do to them. It's something that happens inside them. It's a metaphor for that burning shame a person feels when their hatred is met with your unexpected kindness. It's like your generosity holds up a mirror, forcing them to see the ugliness of their own actions. So the point isn't revenge, it's redemption. You're not trying to destroy your enemy, you're trying to win them over by waking up their conscience. This, right here, is such a crucial lesson in figuring people out. A true friend will tell you the hard truth, Their wounds are faithful because they actually want to see you get better. But an enemy will just flatter you. Their kisses are like a poison disguised as affection. The proverb is telling us to look past the surface, to tell the difference between criticism that builds you up and that fake positivity that's really designed to keep you weak. So how do you even become that kind of person? The kind who can lead well and, actually love your enemies? Well, the Proverbs argue it all starts by mastering the most difficult territory of all, our own inner world. This gets us to the core theme of humility versus arrogance and the battle for self-control. All right, get ready for this, because it's a direct challenge to one of the biggest commandments in modern culture: follow your heart. The book of Proverbs says that idea is foolish, not just misguided, but actively foolish. So, what did these ancient writers know about the human heart that maybe, just maybe, we've forgotten? The reasoning here is, well, it's pretty blunt. First off, it argues that our hearts are naturally biased and just can't be trusted as a reliable compass. Then it says that real wisdom isn't something we just invent, it's something we receive from teachings and advice that have stood the test of time. And finally, to rely only on yourself is the ultimate act of arrogance, to basically assume your tiny perspective is the whole truth. And man, this image of a stubborn ox, it just captures the idea perfectly. Hardening your heart is like being an ox that fights against the yoke. The yoke is there to guide the ox, to do productive work. By fighting against it, the ox isn't getting free. It's just making sure it ends up stuck in the mud. The proverb warns that this kind of stubbornness doesn't lead to freedom. It leads straight to disaster. And honestly, the warning here is pretty chilling. This stiff-necked person, the one who just refuses to be corrected over and over again, isn't just heading for a little trouble. They are headed for a fall so sudden and so complete that it will be beyond healing. It's the ultimate argument for staying humble and teachable, because the alternative is total self-destruction. Okay, so we've talked about wisdom for a nation, for our relationships, for ourselves, but what's holding it all up? What's the one core principle that stops the whole thing from collapsing? Well, it really all boils down to this one powerful idea. And when it says vision, we're not talking about some corporate mission statement, okay? It means a transcendent moral truth, a divine revelation of what is good and what is right. The proverb is arguing that without this external anchor, a society has nothing to hold on to, and people just give in to their worst impulses. Casting off restraint sounds a lot like freedom, doesn't it? But the proverb says no, it's the exact opposite. It's the freedom of a ship that cuts its own anchor in the middle of a storm. And the result is inevitable: chaos, both on a national level with political breakdown and on a personal level with spiritual ruin. That shared vision is the only thing that keeps the ship from getting smashed on the rocks. And that brings us right back to where we started. We began with a warning not to get lost planning for tomorrow, and we end with the idea that our actions today, guided by timeless wisdom, are what really matter. This ancient advice, rediscovered and saved over centuries, is always pulling our focus away from the future and back to right now. So with all the noise out there telling you to plan for tomorrow, I'll just leave you with this question. What's one thing you can do to live more wisely right here, today?